Welcome back, everyone, to the Gamecock Mix. On today's show, we have a very special guest joining us on the show, Lieutenant Jesse Iwuji. Lieutenant Iwuji is an active officer in the United States Navy and drives in the NASCAR Gander Outdoor Truck Series and the number 34 Chevy truck sponsored by Fueltrax. On this segment, we will begin talking with Lieutenant Iwuji about his career at the Naval Academy and playing football there as well.
First question I have for you is we're going to start with everyone you was at start out where you started out, kind of like at the Naval Academy, and what made you choose the Naval Academy, and what made you choose to join the Navy?
Yeah, so for me, originally I'm from Dallas, Texas, and growing up in Texas, there's a lot of, great high school football, and, growing up in high school football nation over there, I wanted to go off to college and play college football. So during my junior year, I really worked hard. So during my junior year, going into my senior year, I started getting recruited by different schools, and Naval Academy was one of them that was recruiting me. So when I look at my options, looking at the other schools that were recruiting me, and then also just all the different opportunities Naval Academy offered, great education, you have a career started for you as an officer when you graduate, and then also, great football team. That was just the best offer right there that I had at the time. So I decided to take that route and go with it.
Yeah, okay, that sounds sweet. Okay, so I know that the Army and Navy game's special, but what was your most memorable moment while playing at the Naval Academy?
Probably my most memorable moment playing at the Academy was when we beat we had a few, but when we beat Notre Dame.
Oh, wow.
Probably when we beat Notre Dame for the first time in 40-something years, that was probably one of my most memorable moments. I had a lot of other great moments, but that one was pretty cool. Just being there and, being on the field there at the end of the game and just being like, wow, we just finally conquered Notre Dame. So that was real big for me right there.
Okay,
yeah.
So I was looking on your Instagram page, and I saw that you were on some of the NCAA football games. What was it like to be on some of those NCAA games, and how do you feel about them bringing it back?
I didn't realize they were bringing back the NCAA football games. Wow, that's
bringing back like a kind of like prototype with like not real teams, but what would you think about them bringing back like the original NCAA games?
It'd be cool. I mean, I know why they went away because of the money stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I really loved those games. I really loved being on them. I really loved playing them. But at the end of the day, they were making millions and billions or how many dollars off those games. And guess who suffered? The players who weren't getting anything for it, right? So you got all these college players who are in college playing, college sports. And yeah, they're getting a free education, which is nice. But, I mean, between the NCAA, the schools, all the games, apparel, all the people making like billions of dollars off of these people, and these players are sitting here struggling just to, have a few bucks to eat, on a weekend and stuff like that, and this and that, and, not having anything. So, they're getting a free education, which is nice, but at the end of the day, you still got to live, right? You still got to, be able to live, and these people are making millions. I'm not saying, the players need to be paid millions like the NFL players or anything like that, but, man, they could get a piece of it. If you're going to use me to make money off of me, at least give me a piece of it. And that wasn't happening. So at the end of the day, with EA Sports having to shut down that program, I really didn't feel too sorry for them.
Yeah. We actually got a class here called Communication Law, and for my final project, I did the Ed O'Bannon versus NCAA, which is really kind of what started. Ed O'Bannon played for UCLA at basketball, and like, hey, these players should be, confiscated, at least some, for their names and likenesses and stuff. But, yeah, once I got into the case and stuff, it kind of, made sense why they canceled it and everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the players should get a piece of it. If they're going to use us to, make money, and it's not like they're making a few bucks. I mean, they're making a ton of money. And then, we're sitting over here struggling. I mean, even though, yeah, you have a free education and stuff, everybody wants to fall on that. Oh, but you get free school. Well, cool, free school is great, but free school doesn't put food in my stomach. It doesn't get me gas in my gas tank so I can go home and see my parents. It doesn't pay for, any of that stuff right there. So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I understand. And one more question about like the Naval Academy and stuff is like, how long were you active and like where were you deployed and stuff while you were active?
So for me, I went to Naval Academy, 2006, graduated 2010. And then, from there went off to San Diego and was on the ships in San Diego, for about 4 years. And during that time, I went on 2 different deployments, both of them to the Arabian Gulf. And then, spent about 10 months on my first deployment in the Arabian Gulf. And my second deployment spent about 5 months. But, we got to go to a lot of cool places: Dubai, Bahrain, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi, a lot of cool, great places, and I had a really good time doing that, and really kind of helped shape me to get to where I'm at today.
Yeah, sweet. Well, thank you. We want to thank you for your service first and foremost. But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You made the ultimate sacrifice, leaving your family, going to fight the good fight for all of us back here, and we really just cannot thank you enough for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, just doing my part to, make sure that we have a fairly completely free country.
Okay, so transitioning from being in the Navy, going into NASCAR, what made you want to compete in the NASCAR level and just start driving? Period.
Yeah. So for me, I've always. Once it hit about 2013, 2014, I started having this itch to want to, compete professionally in racing. And NASCAR was the first door that really opened up for me in 2014, really. So, I met a guy at a car show who was racing late model stock cars. He asked me if I wanted to do a test with his late model team, just because prior to that I was doing a lot of open track days with my Corvette and having a lot of fun doing that. But, I was like, I want to take it to another level. And when I met him, he said, yeah, you should come test with a stock car, see how you like it. And I went and did that. When I did that, that's when I knew that, this is a route I want to go. I want to go this NASCAR route. I think this will be really cool. It'll be interesting. It'll be different for sure. And, I jumped on it, and I've never looked back.
So, before you race, it's a long, long ride. What kind of, rituals do you have, pre-race rituals do you do before each race?
So pre-race rituals for me, my biggest one is really, I have a few, but one of them is I try not to eat any candy at all, the day of the race and normally the day before the race for the most part. I'm pretty good at not doing that. And then also too, I make sure I pray too. I pray right before I get in the car. So anytime before I get in the race car, for the day. I don't pray every single time before I get in, but for that day, if it's the first time I'm getting in the race car, I make sure I pray. And, just make sure God keeps me safe. So, those are kind of the two things that I do pretty much each race weekend.
Awesome. Hey, man, this is Grant. First of all, I'm a huge NASCAR fan. I grew up around racing since I was 4, so this is really cool to talk to you about racing since you race. I was looking through your Instagram page, and I saw where you race on iRacing. I also use iRacing. I've raced with some of the NASCAR drivers. Me and William Byron have raced a good bit together, and Parker Kligerman. I was wanting to ask, how much does iRacing help as far as practice and translating to what you deal with during actual race?
iRacing has helped a lot. iRacing is really good about making sure the physics of the simulator are very close to real life. So when I spend a lot of time on iRacing, when I get there to real life, I feel like I've done it before. I mean, think about it. I've run 4 NASCAR Truck Series races now, and in those 4 races, I haven't tested a truck prior to that. I never hopped in. Like most drivers, they get to hop in a truck 1, 2, 3 times before they even race and test, and then they already have a feel for it. I never got to test. So I went from never racing a truck to the first time ever even turning one on was at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, a really hard road course, and then racing that race, and it was crazy. Ended up outrunning a few people. We finished 25th, for our small team, which was, not bad for a small team. And, just doing that is crazy. So, but iRacing helped a lot. I spent a lot of time in iRacing to get used to the course, get used to the way the truck feels on the course. And when I got to the track, it honestly felt just like it did on iRacing.
That's so awesome to hear because, you know, I've always loved NASCAR. I don't expect to ever get the chance to do it, but on iRacing, it's kind of cool hearing other drivers because I've talked to Parker Kligerman a few times when we raced. He said it was pretty accurate. Also, you know, he's only made 4 starts. That's really cool just to hear how much iRacing can help because now it's finally getting the recognition I feel like it deserves. So I don't know. I'm thinking maybe in the next few years, somebody from iRacing who is just a sim racer. I know they pushed the deal with William Byron being an iRacer, but, you know, he was actually doing racing on his own. But, you know, Ray Alfala, he's like the big iRacer. I think it'd be cool if they might put him in a car and just see somebody who's only sat behind the computer, like put him out on track and see what happens. Because it seems to me very accurate, and it's also just really fun to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I think it'd be really cool to throw someone on the track, you know, and like, you know, I think a great way to do it is, you know, maybe take some really good people in iRacing, throw them in like a K&N car at a short track race. You know, it's not, you know, it'd be a lot cheaper than throwing them in a truck or Xfinity, you know, race or something like that, and a lot less stuff to, you know, I guess if anything happened, it would be on a lower level. So,
yeah.
No, I think it'd be cool to do that. You know, I mean, maybe I've always thought, you know, maybe one day when I can have a lot of money, I can do something like that or provide opportunities to people like that. You know, because nowadays, you know, it's just the funding side of it. It's just expensive, you know, to race, and you know, a lot of people wonder why, like, you know, this person or this person isn't driving or whatever. And it's not that they're not a good driver. It's more of just it's funding. It's just not cheap to race, no matter how you put it. Like, these teams don't get enough money to race. Like, some of them, if they have a really good team sponsor, then they can just throw anybody that they want in the seat. But if the team doesn't have the funding, you can't just throw anybody in the seat. Because, yeah, you can throw the best driver in the world out there, and they can go win every single race. But most likely the money needed to spend to even get to a point where you can win every race, it's a lot more than what the winnings of the race are going to give you. So nobody is in this whole game to go bankrupt, you know, no matter what. You know, no one's here to go bankrupt just to satisfy people watching TV.
Yeah, I know Dale Jr. has talked about with his Xfinity program. I mean, he's got probably the best Xfinity program every year. I mean, whoever's in the 9, they're probably going to win the championship. Allgaier has done great, but Junior said even the successful seasons, they're just breaking even. If they're winning, they're just breaking even. So, yeah, I totally agree about the money situation in NASCAR right now.
Yeah, it's just gotten too expensive. I mean, if there was ways to really make everything like super, super spec and a lot cheaper, and, you know, I mean, the Xfinity programs should not cost what they're costing right now. I mean, these things are costing $180,000, $200,000, you know, per race, you know, and it's like, how did it get to that point? Like, a cup car should cost that. You know, Xfinity programs should be like, you know, way less than that.
Yeah, I was reading an article talking about when, like, a Premier Cup ride was the cost of, like, building 4 IndyCar, like a 4-car IndyCar team. So, yeah, I mean, it's you know, to run, you know, on a big team in the Cup Series, I mean, you're looking at $500,000 to $800,000 per race. Oh yeah,
it's insane just how much one race costs just a company or sponsors or whoever, you know, is in charge of all that. It's just unbelievable.
I think something now with social media, and you might be able to elaborate on this more. The drivers getting involved with social media, trying to reach new sponsors, and I know, like, a funny one. I don't think it's worked out yet, but Bubba Wallace's fans were pushing real hard to get Domino's on his car. Have you like reached out on social media, like trying to get somebody on your car or anything like that?
You know, so social media has helped me get a lot of sponsor stuff. I mean, a lot of sponsors that I have occurred because, you know, they either saw what I was doing on social media or they learned about my story through social media or whatever, something. So that's how I've gotten a decent amount of my sponsors. A lot of it has to do with networking too. So social media is a big part of it. You got to be able to push on it. You got to be able to promote your sponsors on it. You got to be able to get them a good return on their investment. You got to just be able to get them in front of eyes that maybe they weren't in front of before, or help them continue to stay in front of eyes, you know, that they've been in front of. And social media is just a big part of it. That's why I'm always trying to, you know, stay relevant on social media and keep doing things and keeping people, engaged on the social media so that, they continue to grow and have an audience to provide for the sponsor. The reason why people sponsor things, the reason why people, do commercials and things like that is because they want to be in front of an audience. So if you can have a captive audience that you pretty much have at all times, that's important to these sponsors.
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of an off-script question, but I think this would be interesting to hear just as someone who has been following NASCAR since the late 90s. When I was first a fan, that's when NASCAR was at its peak. You had Jeff Gordon in the Rainbow car going at it with Earnhardt, and NASCAR was just massive. And I noticed after 2008, things started kind of going in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
And after this last week at Bristol, there was a lot of talk about, because I remember when I was a little kid, my dad tried to get us tickets to Bristol, and there's a waiting list for like 2 years. Now the stands weren't as full, but it looks like NASCAR's they're trying very hard to fill up the stands again. And I like some of the talks about the new Gen 7 car, but just from your standpoint, what would you like to see NASCAR do moving forward? Like, I know there's been talks of a new business model of instead of one primary sponsor, they'll probably break it down in the segments of the season so they don't have to pay as much. But from a car standpoint, maybe sponsorship, what would you like to see moving forward to help NASCAR still be a great sport as we move forward into the next 20, 30 years?
Man, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. But the funny thing is it has to be a collective effort between NASCAR, the teams, and the track. Those are the three entities that make up this whole sport. So a lot of people don't understand, NASCAR doesn't, really truly, control everything, I mean, they have a say-so in a lot, but they don't really own everything, right? So you have NASCAR, the teams, and the tracks, right? NASCAR does not put on these races. There's promoters that put on these races, and these promoters, they are basically paying a whatever fee to NASCAR to basically use NASCAR name to put on these events. And then NASCAR brings all their officials and all their people and all that stuff and officiates the event and televises it and all that stuff. But let's say, for example, a K&N race, a NASCAR K&N race, each track that's putting all those things on, they're paying anywhere from $60,000 to $70,000 to put on that K&N race. That's the fee that they pay to NASCAR. And then from there, NASCAR's okay, now you can use our name and, basically put on a K&N race. We'll provide the officials and all that stuff, and you'll be on the schedule and be promoted, this and that. But that's how we do that. And then now the teams got to show up. So now the promoters are okay, teams, we need you to show up to this race so, it makes sense and we can get fans in the seats and all that stuff. And you got to provide a good show so that we can have fans in the seat, because we got to find a way to pay off this $70,000 that we just paid NASCAR. So everybody really kind of has to work together for the whole thing to happen. I think drivers need to have just better stories and better storylines going on, and better engagement with the fans, more personality. I know they're all fighting and they're focused on driving, but when you're off the track, you got to have be some other kind of personality that interests the fans. At the end of the day, they love the driving side, but let's see some other stuff. Let's keep it interesting the whole time. Just it's just something I think we need to do better at. Also too, I think we need to definitely help bring the cost down for these teams, so that we can have more teams that are capable of coming out and racing. The reason why you see some short fields sometimes is because not every team just has the money to keep on coming out there. So we got to find a way to bring the prices down. Another thing we got to do is we got to lower the cost that it costs to have fans come to the races. I think it's getting to a point where it's just way too expensive for the average fan to come out. And when you're telling these families of 4, 5, 6, whatever, you're saying, hey, it's going to cost you a lot of money to come out, whether it's getting a hotel, all that stuff. We got to find a way to collectively, work with the tracks, work with the cities, work with all of them to be hey, let's not jack up the prices for everything on race weekend because people aren't going to come out. It's hard, even when I drive out to Phoenix for the Phoenix race and do that, all these hotels are charging $150 to $500 a night to stay at their hotels. and it's just ridiculous. How do you expect anybody to do that? To be like, I'm gonna travel all the way to Arizona and go to this race, like as much as you want to. It's hard because it costs way too much. And when you got a family, now you're buying tickets for them, the hotels, rental car, flights. You add it all up. Nobody has $3,000, $4,000 to spend to go to one race. So we got to bring the cost down so that we get more fans in the seat. These tickets should be like a lot cheaper, So we figured that out. Tickets cheaper, hotels cheaper, and all that stuff cheaper. I think you're going to see a lot more fans in the seats.
Do you think NASCAR, I know in the last probably 10 years, every year it's like more and more downforce is being applied. Do you think there's any way in the future, because there's been the argument between NASCAR and the drivers want less downforce, so it's harder to drive, but NASCAR keeps going in the other directions. And I know race engineers, I mean, no matter what you throw at them, them guys are geniuses. They're going to get as much as they can out of the car. Do you think there's any way they can get the cars up off the ground? Because that seems to be what the fans are really asking for, but I don't know. There's a lot of mixed reactions going on between NASCAR and the fans and the drivers, at least from a fan perspective. What's your take on that?
I mean, my stress is, whether you make it hard to drive or easier to drive or whatever you do, at the end of the day, they just need to make the cars all be the same speed, if you can get them the same, to where no one has more power or more aerodynamic advantage or whatever than the others, yeah, people will complain, yeah, you're taking the engineering out of it and all that stuff, yeah, but if you really want to see some good racing, you make every single car the exact same so that the only difference is the person holding that wheel and pushing that gas pedal, then you will see some exciting racing, because now it's not like, this person who might not be as good of a driver as this other person is outrunning them only because the car is just a lot better. We'll take that out of the equation. Now it's driver versus driver, and then now you'll really see some driving people having to do anything in their power to wheel this thing to a victory and not let the car wheel them to a victory.
Yeah, exactly. I got to ask you, though, who's your favorite NASCAR driver?
Dale Jr.
Dale Jr. My dad would be proud of that answer.
Yeah, even though he's retired, he's still my favorite driver.
Yeah, I was the oddball of the family. They all had their black number 3 and red number 8, and I was wearing 24. I was going into Earnhardt Nation every year at Talladega, so I was the oddball of the family.
Yeah, he and I don't just say Dale Jr. just because he was a super popular driver. I say him because I've actually met him and spoken with him, multiple times, and he's just a really down-to-earth and cool guy. And then he started following me on Twitter and Instagram, so I got really happy. So, yeah.
Like fanboy and
yeah.
Play. But talking about how you were having better storylines, I saw this incredible video of you saving this family from a burning car that was about to explode. I was just amazed of how calm and cool you were under pressure, getting all of them from safety. Just tell us, what went through your mind when you were, doing that.
Yeah, the biggest thing is just doing the right thing. It wasn't anything about trying to be brave or go, try to make the news or whatever. I wasn't thinking anything of that. I was more of just hey, there's something happening. It looks like it's a bad situation, and it's about to get worse. If I don't stop, if I don't do something, someone could possibly get hurt. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I'm not going to drive home and on my way be thinking, man, I wonder what happened back there. No, I'm going to stop and help and do the right thing. So, in the day, anybody who drove by should have stopped. Everyone should have stopped. No one really, I think one other person actually stopped to try to help. And that was really sad because, it was why didn't more people? We should have had a line of people stopping and be like, hey, is everyone all right? But that didn't happen. So, I tried to do what the right thing was, and it all turned out for the best. No one got hurt, but the vehicle got, turned into a fireball, which was nuts.
Yeah, we watched the video. It was crazy. But going back to the NASCAR and stuff and the schedule, I know it's such a diverse schedule of tracks and stuff, but do you have a favorite track you go to or anyone that you prefer?
I like Sonoma a lot. I just wish it was 20 or 30 degrees cooler when we run. But besides that, I really like Sonoma. I like that road course. It's really fun. Vegas was really fun. Texas was cool. I like Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That was actually a very beautiful track. And then Bristol's a cool place. And then where else is a fun place? Some other places are cool, but yeah, those are kind of the cool ones. Bristol is like the coolest looking place to go race at. Like you get in there, like this is just cool. You know, like there's no way to put it. It's just a cool place to be in.
Yeah, me and my dad, we went to Bristol last fall, and it was the first time I've been since I was like little and stuff, and it's amazing because you're sitting there and you're like looking over the track and everything's just right there. And
yeah, there's no bad seats now. I've been there as well. It's a great track. Yeah,
no, it's really nice. It's really nice.
I know that you just started doing this truck series after the K&N. I know you did some ARCA series last year because we got a local boy from right here close to us, about 30 miles, Brett Holmes. You know Brett?
Yep, I've heard of him, yep.
Yeah, he's from about 30 miles from here. But I know that how did the truck series ride come about starting this season and last year?
How did the truck series come about?
Like, how did you get the ride and stuff? Like, how did that all sort out and stuff?
Yeah, so pretty much how that all came about was, basically, for me, I had this goal of making it all the way to the top of NASCAR. So with that being said, you got to grind, you got to really push, you got to, keep on making a lot of stuff happen. So, throughout all of last year, we kind of had this goal like, hey, no matter what this year, we got to make a truck start. And I was, at the time I was thinking maybe I could get at least one in, but we were fortunate to get two in, which was awesome. So, it coming about was really a lot of it my agent really pushing and finding the right team to run with. Because at the end of the day, all the teams have their pricing and what it costs to race with them. You just got to figure out which one matches the budget that you're able to get. For the budget that we were able to get for that first race in August at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Josh Rayum was like the best team that we could run with. And, he's a really good guy. I've known him for a while. He puts in a solid effort in building the trucks that he has. And he somebody that we could trust that was going to actually put out a good effort. And we know we're not a big team. We're not, a KBM or Carl Busch or anything like that, but with what we have, we make the most of it, and we get in the race, we run the full race, we finish it. Sometimes we have better finishes than other days, but, we do what we can with what we have, and everyone keeps a positive attitude throughout the whole weekend. So it all worked out. But the biggest thing was, finding the sponsorship, and then once we found the sponsorship, from there, making the race actually happen. So that was cool. But we put together quite a few sponsors for that first one. I think it was Zulu Audio, Principal Jets, and some other folks who came on board for that one. And then the second race we did in Phoenix, we had a bunch of veteran-owned companies come together, and then these last two races that we did this year, Fueltrax was our primary sponsor, and they've been a pretty amazing sponsor with everything they've been doing, especially being a Houston-based company, my home state.
Man, that's awesome. Like, I hope you make it to Cup. I'm such a big fan of racing. It's been really cool getting to talk to you. I'm pulling for you because I've been keeping up with it ever since I was a little kid. Try to watch all the races, trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. I'm just a big fan. So here's a good question. If you could just take any car right now, if you could jump in any Cup ride right now, whose ride are you taking?
If I could jump in anyone's ride right now, it would be a Hendrick ride, and I would jump in Jimmy Johnson's right when he's ready to retire. I'll jump in the 48.
Man, that is an awesome choice. I think for me, I think I'd jump in the 24. Obviously, I'm biased towards it.
Mm-hmm.
But man, to work with Chad Canals, that would just be amazing. So I think that'd be my choice of a ride.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just want to race for Hendrick Motorsports.
Oh yeah, for sure. It'd be hard not to want to jump in the 18 though. God,
that's
every week.
That's my man right there. So if I I would probably go with KB there.
He's the best. Yeah, he is the best team. He is the best.
Getting a racing.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I got to run him. And he got by me that last few 10 laps or whatever. Put me a lap down. All good, but still a really good driver. But he's on a really great team. Has a ton of experience and a lot of great funding and backing behind him, which helps. He even knows. If he jumped in something that wasn't great, it'd be very difficult for him to even finish in the top 10, top 15. You can only do so much. At the end of the day, like if you're an amazing driver and you're driving a Honda Civic and there's another driver who's half as good as you and they're driving a Ferrari, who's still going to win the race? The not so good driver in a Ferrari. So
that's a great point you bring up, because everybody makes the argument of who's the GOAT, because some people are like, it's Richard Petty, and then they're like, well, he had a better car than everybody, so they're like Earnhardt, and then they're like, well, Gordon and Johnson raced in a more competitive era. So they're like, well, Gordon would have had 7 if they hadn't went the chase, and they're like, well, Jimmy Johnson had the chase championships. So who's the GOAT to you? Who do you think the GOAT of NASCAR is?
Honestly, I would probably go with Dale Sr. I would probably go with him. I think he's the GOAT to me. Kyle Busch is amazing, and honestly, like, Kyle Busch could, I don't know. I mean, Kyle Busch is a GOAT right now. There's GOATs of different eras. There's all different kind of eras. So you got to look at it as kind of the era, and when you look at the era, it's more like the decades, right? So you got to look at, like, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s and all that stuff. The GOAT of the 90s was, definitely Dale Sr. The GOAT of the 2000s, definitely, I don't know, Jimmy, probably, maybe, I think. and then I think really of this decade, and really not even really this decade, but more of in the last 4 years. 4 or 5 years, Kyle Busch for sure. Yeah, he would be the one I would really consider kind of the GOAT of this time. And Jimmy Johnson really kind of had it really the first half of this decade, I think. And then after that, it was definitely Kyle Busch. But yeah, you just got to look at the different eras. The same thing with basketball. People talk about, Jordan and LeBron, which one's better? No, it's Jordan was the GOAT of the 90s. The GOAT of the 2000s was Kobe Bryant, and the GOAT of now is LeBron. So, you got to just look at it as that. And I think the cars that Dale Sr. had to drive were what might have been harder to drive. I think were harder to drive, maybe, with just how much power they had and less aero and less technology and less all that stuff. And then also, too, the tracks that they drove on weren't always really the best tracks, and the guy just did some interesting things with those vehicles to will himself to a victory. I mean, the guy just drove the wheels off of them, and they were harder cars to drive, less engineering in them, less knowledge, less the people that were building these things, they weren't scholars like some of the people now.
Yeah, and sometimes I think I've always kind of said from my friends here in the last few years, I kind of feel like NASCAR has outsmarted themselves. Because you're right, back in the 90s, Ray Abraham was a super smart crew chief, but those cars, now I've seen videos of them at Daytona. Hendrick will have like 12 engineers working on one car. And in the 90s, you didn't see that. So harder to drive cars back in the 90s, watching the 24 versus the 3, man, you're right. It was wild watching them get sideways. I know I've kept up with Mark Martin over the years on social media, and he constantly he kind of takes digs at NASCAR because they keep going more with the higher downforce stuff, and he's like, well, my stuff was hard to drive, and I think he was right.
Yeah, no, the cars back in the day were definitely hard to drive. When you take less downforce and a lot more power, and tires weren't, as engineered as they are now, and there's a lot of different things, and then even pit crews weren't even as good then as they are now. All this stuff just wasn't as good then as it is now. These people still had to drive them at some pretty crazy speeds. So I think it was harder to drive the cars then than they are now, and these people really had to wheel them, and it was a more dangerous sport too. So you had to wheel it, make some crazy moves, do some things, and knowing that your move that you make could get you killed. Nowadays, not saying that you still can't die, but you're a lot safer nowadays than they are back then. So, when you made certain moves, these people, like you see some of these truck races and, a lot of people making these crazy moves and wrecking and all that stuff. Well, people had to think twice before doing that a long time ago.
Yeah, the safety improvements have been extreme, especially since, Earnhardt passed away, a little over 20 years ago or close to it or something like that. But, the safety improvements have come a long way. But I got another question. This is kind of for me. So I actually race. I race dirt late models around Alabama and stuff, and I started out in go-karts and kind of worked my way up. Now I just got a dirt late model this past year. Is there any advice like you would give somebody like coming up and racing and stuff, like any advice and any pointers or anything?
The biggest thing is for people coming up and racing is you got to make sure you're doing everything. So it's not only driving on the track. Just driving on the track only and doing well in races and winning races doesn't it's not everything. You gotta do everything. You gotta be a good person off the track and a good person on the track. When I say off the track, you gotta do all the stuff necessary to continue to learn how to market yourself and be marketable and be very professional and build your brand, build your following, build your audience, build the captive audience that you are really selling to these sponsors, saying that these are the people that are watching me. These are people that are captive to me, that listen to what I say and what I do. These are my people. So you got to build that brand, you got to build an audience. You got to work on that from the start to the finish. It's not going to be easy at first. You're not going to really have much of a following except your family and friends at first, but you can build it through stuff that you're doing on and off the track, and find different ways to be creative. Don't just only be a race car driver. Be more than a race car driver. You gotta be a personality, and you gotta be a figure, a public figure. So you gotta learn how to do that. Also too, in this whole grind to get through this whole game, you gotta, remember that, there's gonna be good days, gonna be bad days. At the end of the day, the people who actually make it are the ones who stay strong enough, long enough. So just never quit. If you keep on putting effort towards it, you keep on having faith that you will get there even when it looks dark. You pray every single night. You have, believe in God and keep pushing forward and never quit. You'll make it. But if you don't do one of those things I just mentioned right there, you will have a very difficult time making it.
Sweet, man. Thanks for that. That's kind of inspiring to me. I don't know if I can never get into NASCAR, but hey, there's always that strive, to get to that next level.
Yeah, it's all possible. If you just stay with it, to keep believing, keep putting action and focused effort towards it, try new things, try new ways. Don't just keep doing the same thing that everyone and their mom's been doing for the last 60 years. Try new ways. There's I'm in this whole thing and been making my way up through it through unconventional ways and unconventional tactics and doing things that, trying to do things different than other people so that I can make it and it's been working. I mean, I've made it up to a truck series now, and I'll keep on moving up from there. But I don't have a rich family. I've never had family backing to help me get to where I'm at. It's all been just learning the ropes and doing things a little bit different so I can get to where I want to go.
That's awesome. That gave me chill bumps, not gonna lie. But to kind of wrap this up, what is the rest of your racing schedule for the 2019 season, and then what are the plans for the future?
So we don't have a set schedule. We're kind of just going race by race. But the big thing for me is run the truck races I need to run so I can get approved to run some Xfinity races, and then make a start in the Xfinity race this year. That's kind of the biggest goal right here this year, is to make a start or starts in the Xfinity series this year at some point. So I want to run the truck series races that I need to run, gain some more experience, and then make that jump. But that's kind of the big aim this year, and that's what we're working on. And once we have some more races locked in, we'll keep on announcing those through social media. But for right now, we just kind of we hold it to ourselves until we're ready to put it out there.
Lieutenant Iwuji, thank you so much for your time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate it. You have no idea. Our viewers are going to love this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. This is the Gamecock Mix with Sam Man, Garrett Lloyd,
and Grant Davis.